salutations to viewers and coins of the vault alike. I am Tatsumari, the self-proclaimed keeper of Maple Story lore and stories abroad. Welcome, welcome. And there are many who do it, but I am the only one who does it like me. Tonight is a special night, for we have been graced with the redemption of a very, very special redemption. The coin of the vault, attracted to pans, has brought together and selected that this stream shall be the stream of which they have their story read to you, the masses, the viewers and coins of the vault. Now, a little disclaimer here. I do plan on going all the way for, 2 hours is kind of where I have to go. However, I don't know if my voice is going to last that long. So, with that caveat in mind, I will either go the 2 hours or until my voice quits. If my voice does quit, we're pretty much going to hang it up there, and maybe I'll talk really, really quietly and just, kind of hang out with chat to kind of run out the timer from there. Also, I have not read this story in advance, so you and I will both be graced with this story for the first time. That being said, for those of you on Twitch, there is an ad break thing coming up that I really don't have any control over. So, with all of that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and put that ad break on. For those of you on YouTube, you're going to have yourself a nice little returning soon screen with some music playing. And while that is playing, if, let's see, I think, is Pans here in the chat? I hope they are. While that ad break is playing, if you are listening and you could send me the link to your story in chat, then by the time the ad break is over, we shall get started. So, nobody go anywhere. We shall return after these massages. Alrighty, so as soon as I can get my buttons in order, there we go. Oh no! Let's go! We got hype! Let me get this adjusted for everybody so it stays on screen here. Okay. Let's see. I am not the only author in this one, so Achgiu? Am I saying that right? If I completely butcher that, I am not trying. I am just unsure how to pronounce it. So if I get it wrong, I'm just going to take my wildest guess and say Achgiu. I'm going to go with that for now. Okay, we're not going to give out IRL names here. Don't want to do that. You know, there's a bunch of weird people on the internet. We don't need weird things happening. So, I'm just going to give him my best shot of Achgiu. At least that's what it looks like to me. And Achgiu, if you're out there and I'm saying this completely wrong, please forgive me. I'm doing the best that I can. Alrighty, so this is the story, a fanfiction no less, written by Attracted to Pans and Achgiu together. Now, this was a redemption. Attracted to Pans shed their scales and redeem this. This entire stream is going to be dedicated to reading this story, Miraculous Hylians, which is a crossover between Miraculous Ladybug and Legend of Zelda. Thank you. I don't know why I'm saying thank you, but Legend of Zelda. There we go. As I said before, I have not pre-read this. I don't know what it's all about. And to at least go by what tags have been marked here, there are some archive warnings on it. So if you guys want to, whoever's in chat over here on Twitch, you guys can use that link to go and save it and go check it out for the rest of you. Go check out the rest of it on your own time. Good grief, I can't talk all of a sudden. But, because I'm not going to be able to probably get through the whole thing. But, be sure and check it out. So, from here, let us dive in to Miraculous Hylians by Attracted to Pans. For a quick note, if I wanted to click this series, if anyone gets confused with names, which Link is which, and the name with the same with Zelda. Okay. I promise we don't have 12 people named Linked. Okay. They have other names. Okay. Of Linked Universe. Let's see. Quick note, you might want to click the series. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, keep that in mind if you go check this out on your own. But we begin with Chapter 1, Destruction's Birth. Sky opened up his room after school to find a weird box on his desk, a box that wasn't in his room or house when he left that morning. He reached for the box, but the moment he lifted the lid, it snapped open and an orb of green flew around him and swatting his swatting hands.
Wow. Quit the swatting. I'm not a demon, you know.
Hey, pause. If I shed scales, will you check out a whip I'm working on, like eventually? Sure, if you have the scales, there are all kinds of rewards down below to read stuff, so be sure and check it out, okay? And thanks for coming, Polka. All right. Sky continued the swatting, but his hands oddly went straight through the now black flying blob.
Seems simple enough.
Oh. Okay, so it's on the list. We will check it out on the next writing stream for sure, okay? What the heck is all that Sky says?
Well, what have you humans made since 1,000 years ago? Oh,
The thing flew around his room, touching things and flying in and out of the walls. Then it tried to eat the stapler. That's not edible! Stop! Sky jumped over, but it flew away quickly. What even are you?
a god of destruction who wants cheese.
Why would a god of destruction be in my room? That's my wood carvings! The thing suddenly appeared and gnawed at a wood carving of his loft-winged bird he had made earlier that week. Then it jumped back and then yelled as it almost flew into his bird's cage.
Bird, do you know where the cheese is?
Sky's small crimson loftwing chirped calmly as if responding. It caught him off guard. His bird is usually energetic. Then the flying thing launched through the wall, into the hall. Oh, great, is all Sky thought.
Cheese!
He heard while running through the apartment, then found noise from inside his fridge. The thing was going through their food and had bitten into a stick of butter before making a face and threw it back into the drawer.
Do you even own any cheese?
Sky just stood for a moment and tried to catch his breath. Not unless you explain, or I will figure out how to lock you in the box again.
Oh, fine, I'll do my job. You put on the ring from the box. You say, Plag, claws out. My name's Plag. I'm Kwame, essentially a god, and you get superpowers by saying Cataclysm. Oh, I can't do this once you transform. It will be your staff phone thing. Wait, what's a phone?
Not helpful, Sky said. And get out of my fridge so I can grab the cheese. Why do you like it so much anyway? Sky pulled open the other drawer as the thing, Plag, flew away without regard. He grabbed the stick of butter and the tube of cheese that he didn't remember ever seeing in his home before. When Sky held the can up to Plag, he finally got a good look at him. Large green eyes on the oversized head, connected to a small floating body, with dark purple antennae poking out of his cheeks, and another one on the top of his head in between cat-like ears. Sky faced the nozzle on the can, but Plag gagged at the sight of it.
Gods, who would create such a monstrosity? Canned cheese?
I might have cheese sticks if that's better. By the way Plag looked, it was easily assumed that it would be. At the sight of the cheese stick, he stopped gagging and looked at it cautiously.
What type of cheese is it?
Mozzarella. The can was cheddar.
Acceptable.
Plag proceeded to eat the cheese stick whole.
Though I much prefer Camembert for future reference.
Camembert? I'm not a cheese enthusiast, so if I don't know exactly what that name is. Camembert. I'm just going to go with that. Camembert. This was the moment Sky questioned his entire existence more than he had ever before, even more than when Groose caused trouble. Now, what the heck do you mean by superhero? Suddenly a crash came from outside. Screams of people below and bricks flew from somewhere, luckily missing the window in his dining room. All right, cool.
That's what I meant. Well, I've been fed, and you've got the important bits for me. Do your stuff,
Plag said quite casually. He followed Sky back to his room, where the box and the black ring laid open on the floor, left on its side in the initial chaos of their meeting. Why would you pick a random 14-year-old for this? I am like the worst person to be a superhero. What even is that out there? How do you even beat a large wave of music notes that destroys buildings? Sky asked. and poked his head out the window. He caught sight of a monster, a humanoid being with a small instrument in their mouth dressed in a weird-looking suit.
Oh, why do I have to always explain? Plague whined. It's an akumatized monster. The miraculous user who holds the butterfly used their ability so they are a person who is being mind-controlled and forced into a different body. You have to destroy the Akuma to save the person. Poor Nuru, always having evildoers.
Miraculous? What the heck is an Akuma? And who is Nuru? Sky ran from his window as the monster ran through the street below, playing the instrument and sending cars flying. A pink and yellow blur flew from behind the monster, leading it forward and luring the attacks.
The miraculous is what the ring is. They are the magic objects we use to enter the world and give humans our abilities. I told you that. Akumas are the ability of the butterfly miraculous, as I told you. Nuru is clearly the Kwami for the butterfly miraculous. Context clues. Now hurry up and get moving!
Once on the building's roof, the blur was continuing to battle the musical monster near the park square. Plague? Claws out. All right, give me a second here. I need some water on my vocal cords. All right. A bright white elastic suit covered his body, with a belt tail tied around his hips. Splotches of color decorated the suit and tail like a calico cat. He felt a mask covering his face around his eyes, featuring the same colored spots around his now green-tinted eyes. His skin-tight suit was layered by a jacket that cut off at the waist. It was in darker shades than his suit, with a large cat's paw print on the back in dark green. A small stick in silvery blue was strapped onto his waist by the belt, having the same paw as the jacket printed on. Sky normally would stop at the ledge of the building, but he leapt without issue, landing on the other side as if it was a crack in the road. Within the park was the tall, akumatized monster, sending blasts of musical notes through the air, causing explosions everywhere. For some reason, Sky knew to grab the small stick, and it extended outward to the size of a sword. Must be the staves he talked about, Sky thought, as he swung it around, trying to hit the monster down. His hit was deflected by the monster's arm, causing him to land on the ground as the monster changed targets to him. It tried to toss him around the park every time Sky got close. As he was about to try again, the monster fired back once more. The pink-yellow blur from earlier, a girl about his age, had bright blonde hair and was spinning a yo-yo in front of them to reflect the attacks.
So you're the one he wants. Just a few meddling teenagers with fancy jewelry? Well, if it's what the boss wants, then
Orchestrator will deliver. Hand over your miraculous. I'm kind of figuring some of these voices out as I go. He pulled the instrument up to his mouth and blasted out another round of music notes. Thanks for the save, he yelled to her, while he split his staff into two and tossed one his direction. Do you know how to defeat him? My guy didn't tell me anything about how to get the Akuma out. Sky hoped she knew what he meant and when he referenced Plague. Mine did. We destroy the object it's in, and I capture it. I think it's in his instrument. They continued to block attacks as they talked, before launching out in an attempt to grab the instrument from the beast. You got anything to help? Sky yelled to her. She dropped her yo-yo down to her hand, then jumped behind Sky as he continued to block flying music notes. Lucky charm! Her yo-yo flew into the air all on its own, glowing a bright pink. When the yo-yo... The yo-yo? I think you... The yo-yo? When the yo-yo fell back into her hands, a slingshot sat alongside it. What abilities do you have? Or what abilities do you have? She pulled her yo-yo back up to help block.
Cataclysm! I destroy the one object that I touch when I use it. At least that's what they told me.
Oh, wow. Messed that up. Cataclysm. I destroy one object that I touch when I use it. At least that's what they told me, he replied. His wrists began to tire the longer he spun his staff. She flipped behind a tree, kicking him behind another.
When you see an opening, destroy the instrument.
Sky watched her picking up rocks from the ground as she spoke, but heeded her instructions as soon as he heard. He leapt from the ground around the park to pull the monster's attention away while rocks flew from the slingshot. Finally, the girl's aim struck true, and the weapon sailed out of the villain's arms. The yo-yo flew through the air around the monster, holding it in place. Sky started running and yelled, "Cataclysm!" before grabbing the instrument. It hit the ground and turned to ash in his hand. A bright purple butterfly with crisp lines and iridescent wings flew from the ash. He looked over to where the monster had been, instead seeing an older boy with dirty blonde hair and sharp blue eyes be released from a bubble of purple smoke and collapsed onto the grass. Sky's partner released the boy from her yo-yo.
Are you all right?
He held his head in confusion. How did I get here?
That is quite a long story. For now, you should begin to head home. I expect things will be quite confusing for a while.
She held out her hand and helped him rise to his feet. Once he was standing, she threw the slingshot into the air.
Miraculous sunspot!
Sky watched as it began to melt down into bright red ladybugs, which flew around the city at lightning speed, repairing most of the damage before fizzling out into the world. "Where's my ocarina?" the boy asked. He began to panic and run around, checking every spot flown over by the ladybugs. She looked at him before nudging her partner's arm with her elbow.
"Check your phone," she muttered. "I don't have any other tricks."
She looked slightly worried as her earrings ringed with a beep, and a spot on her earrings disappeared like a timer. Sky pulled on his staff and slid open halfway, revealing a small screen. It told him about his ability to undo his cataclysm, but also how he was stuck to a 5-minute timer before transforming. He found himself saying the words as naturally as breathing. It felt less odd than he figured it should to whisper such a word in a moment like this. Eclipse prosperity. The ash rose into the air, and small bug-sized cats of various colors left his hands and reformed the ash into a wooden ocarina. "Here you go, sir." He hesitantly handed the ocarina back to its owner, who thanked him profusely. Suddenly, Sky and his partner heard loud beeping from their earrings and ring. They glanced at each other, worried, and left as police cars began pulling up. They de-transformed on a roof, separated by a roof to hide their identities, and each thrust out their magic outfits. Sky grabbed Plag as he popped into the air and fell towards the slanted roof. "Are you all right?" Plag laid on his back in Sky's hands.
"Hungry,"
is all he said. Sky yelled over the roof, hoping that the girl on the other side would hear and have some spare food. "Hey, I never got your name, but do you have any food? My Kwame needs some, but I don't have anything on me."
"Is he okay with sunflower seeds?"
came the reply. Sky looked down to see Plag give a small nod. "He is." "Author Relic, good evening. How are you doing? We are smack dab in the middle of chapter 1 of reading a story by Attracted to Pans over here. So sit in and be prepared for a tale that becomes legend." He waited for a response, which came in the form of the tossing of a small bag filled with sunflower seeds. "Oh, Author Relic, welcome to the vault. You are the newest shiny coin, and I hope you're at least mildly entertained by what you see from here on out." He caught the bag and fed a few to Plag, giving him enough energy to fly again. He had a single seed to himself before yelling back over to her.
Thanks!
"Sending it back!" He tossed the sealed bag over the roof. "Call me Sunspot. Your name is Eclipse?" Sky remembered her saying the name earlier, but was confused about why she thought that was his name. "I didn't think of one yet. Why do you think it's Eclipse?" He transformed up once again, using his staff for stability. "You wanna transform and talk on some less steep footing?" "That would be nice." He saw her do a backflip to the top of the roof and climbed up to join her before they chose to continue the conversation on a flatter roof. Sky spun his staff around his fingers. "So why do you think my name is Eclipse?" "Well, remember when I used my ability, the miraculous sunspot one?" He nodded. It was hard to forget magic ladybugs repairing in the entire city. "Well, I placed sunspot after miraculous because that's the only way to activate it. I assumed you knew that and had already chosen your name." "I didn't have time to pick. It just felt right. I guess if my Kwame told me, I might have to put some thought into one." He swore he heard some small voice like Plag's in the back of his head, whispering an insult and something about being ungrateful. "Do you want to come up with a name, or is Eclipse something you like?" she asked, leaning down and sitting on the roof's edge. "Eclipse isn't bad. I think I'll keep it. Maybe it'll make people think it's intentional. Sunspot and Eclipse go well together." He laughed a bit. "Well then, to our newfound alliance." She held her hand up to him in a fist. His fist met her own in a fist bump. "To us." All right. So, that is Chapter 1 of Miraculous Hylians. So, we'll be moving on to Chapter 2 here in a second. But, oh yeah. If you check the channel rewards down below, you can shed your scales for all kinds of cool stuff. So, if you give me a second here, let me get out in the yard. I know that, let's see. Pokepen's over here. You had something you wanted to check out, or wanted me to check out. I saw you redeem it, so if you want me to check it out while we're kind of in between chapters here, we can do that. If it's not too terribly long. Oops, hold on. There we go. But yeah, I usually read I read all kinds of people's works. And usually on Fridays we'll have, if you saw the writing prompt that was on the screen there for a minute, that's usually what we do here, but on Fridays. But, Pans had redeemed this entire writing stream here, so just taking a little bit of break here. We had multiple redemptions happen at all at once, so I'm trying to fit them all in here. But we will get back to Pan's story here in just a minute. But yeah, welcome to the stream. And, yeah. Okay. This particular one is if I remember right, is let's see. Polka? Is that the only thing you wrote there? Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see here. So you said this is a kind of a quick thing of your own that you've been working on. Is that correct, Poca? Give me a second here. I need to look at something. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we shall check this thing out with Poca Pens over here, and then we'll get right back to the Pans' story. Okay. So let's get into the writing office over here. Okay. So this is the sounds like looks like it's called Demon Novel. Is that correct, Poca Pens? No official title. Okay. So, Author Relic. I'm just going to check this one out really quick with Poca Pens. If you would like, usually on Wednesdays and Fridays are usually when I have other writing streams. I'll check this one out really quick. I did want to make sure that majority of this stream goes to Pans over here, but I'll check out this one really quick, and we'll save yours for the next writing stream, which is on Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to come then and check it out, well, be sure to check your reading stuff out. Sound good? All right. So, we'll stick with Demon Novel for now by Poca Pens. Trees shot past as Damien ran through the woods. That scallywag, he thought to himself. Is that kind of like your censored version? He thought to himself, let's see, what would be a better, what would kind of work a little bit? That despot, he thought to himself. I can't believe she called the coalition on me. Life had been good since Damien had gotten into hell, and all he had to do was seduce chicks and steal their souls for Mr. Lucifer himself. But he had finally been sniffed out as an incubus. And now, here he was, running from CPC cops for dear life. He had heard stories about what the CPC does to demons, and oh boy, he was not going to go through that if he could help it. Freeze! A female voice shouted as he darted from behind a tree in front of Damien. Or as she darted out from behind a tree in front of Damien. He was caught. Damien slowed to a stop with his hands in the air. He gasped for air. He was never in shape, not even in life. The officer took his hands and bound them behind his back with special handcuffs made to restrain the demonic entities. A few more of her fellow officers grabbed each of his arms and began to drag him off to their van for transportation. Damien thought back to how he got here. He had set up a hookup with a new girl in his life. This new girl wasn't all that attractive, at least to him at least. But hey, a soul's a soul. He arrived at the location she had given him, and she was there. Hey there, sexy, he called from his car. He had noticed something off when she had rolled her eyes. Usually, these kinds of girls were all over him by this point. Regardless, she got in the car with him. He drove to a discreet location, unaware that an undercover CPC car was tailing them. Right when he thought he was about to score this woman's soul, he heard the telltale sound of the CPC siren. Citizen Protection Coalition, come out with your hands up, they shouted over the radio. Damien then proceeded to bail out of his car and take off running into the woods. And now, here he was, getting arrested. He wondered what the Coalition had planned for him. He wondered if they were going to torture him as badly as he had heard they do. He wondered if any of his captured buddies were even still alive. With the Coalition, who knew? He knew humans were ruthless creatures. They've killed for less than what he's done. As his mind raced, he was stuffed into the transportation van, and off they went to the CPC containment facility. He kept his head down as he was transported. He was so disappointed in himself for getting caught. Lucifer would have his head for this if he ever escaped. Okay. All right, so we'll get the teaser done. I'm going to save this, and on Wednesday, we'll be sure and check out some more of this. All right? Does that sound fair? Pokepens? Okay. All right, so give me a second here. All right, so we got that done. Go back over here. All right, cool. So like I said, on Wednesday I will pick these Author Relic. If you want to come too, on Wednesday I have another writing stream going, and Pokepens on Wednesday around 4:30 p.m. Here or not, I will read it on stream in between writing sessions and stuff like that. So I will read it for you guys. Being that this one is for Pans, that's kind of where the major focus is going to be, but I will read it. Don't despair. All right, so now let's get back over here into the writing office and continue with Miraculous Hylians. Let me get some more water in my throat. All right. All right. So, Chapter 2. Creation of a Hero. Screams. Sun's eyes flew open, expecting the noises to stop, but they continued. This was no dream. Confused, she sat up in her bed and looked out the window. She could see a few buildings, but the view in front was horrific. Monsters were jumping around everywhere, vandalizing property and trapping unlucky civilians that had happened to be wandering this early in the morning. A familiar multicolored blur made her do a double take. The same ocarina-playing boy was there again, blasting holes in buildings with his notes. But didn't I destroy his akumatized object? What's going on? She realized now would be a good time to wake Tiki. The Kwami in question, however, was snoozing soundly next to her pillow.
Tiki!
Sun hissed.
Wake up!
What's happening? She shook the Kwami, enunciating the last question. Tiki opened her large purple eyes and gazed at her lazily.
What is it? I was having such a nice dream. What's that noise?
Those are monsters! Sun felt like screaming. Dozens of them!
Tiki, didn't you say if I destroy the object, the Akuma would go away?
That statement had Tiki darting to the window. She stared out at the disaster in silence.
Oh, dear.
She turned back to Sun.
You did capture the Akuma, right?
I destroyed the object and saw the Akuma. Does that count? Tiki shook her head.
Of course not. You need to catch it in your yo-yo.
She mimed swinging the weapon.
And it'll turn back into a normal butterfly.
That was emphasized with the Kwame swinging her arms out, almost like a rainbow or an explosion. I'm so sorry. It was my first day, Sun said. Can we fix it?
It's going to take way longer. You're Sunspot. You're supposed to make sure this doesn't happen.
Sun's heart wrought itself into a knot. I... And she broke down, burying her head in her knees. Wet, panicked sobs escaped her, intermingling with the screams outside. It was her job to protect the city, and she had already failed first try. Now people were getting hurt, and where was she? Losing her mind on her comfy bed, protected from the mess. Maybe if she had listened to the instructions, things would be better. Maybe if she was responsible and paid attention before jumping in head first, innocent Hylians wouldn't be in danger. Maybe she was a danger. Tiki, who had realized her mistake, flew up to comfort her.
Hey, that was a little harsh, wasn't it?
She put her tiny hand on Sun's cheek. The latter opened her eyes and stared down at her. The Kwame looked innocent, petite compared to the power she possessed. In the scale of the world, she was the most important and least noticeable. Inconspicuous, just like the small hexagonal box Sun had found her in her room yesterday. The reason she noticed it in the clutter of her room was that it didn't match the usual color scheme of her designs at all. Scarlet patterns mapped and curved their way across the surface, contrasting with the dull brown underneath. It looked as if fire was seared within those lines, traces of flaming string etching its way into the ancient wood. Inconspicuous at first glance, but at the second, she could tell it was important. She lifted the lid, touch feather light. Sitting inside were 2 golden earrings, shaped like little stars.
Suns, just like my name.
When Sun merged with Tiki and transformed for the first time, she felt again the inconspicuousness the miraculous was whispering to her. Heavily contrasted by the vibrant banana yellow and pink suit she was wearing. Yeah, not inconspicuous, not conspicuous whatsoever. The power behind it was obviously special. Sun didn't want to be inconspicuous. In her opinion, the miraculouses were meant to be flashy, to be good. There was no hiding once you put the suit on. As soon as you did, you might as well proclaim to the world, "I'm here to save everyone!" Except Sun hadn't saved everyone. All she had done was create more enemies. So now she herself was one. I wish I could be inconspicuous. To be able to shrink down to Tiki's size, hide in a drawer, and never come out.
Hey,
Tiki's voice stirred her out of her trance.
It's okay. Come back to me.
Tears threatened her vision. Tiki, she whispered. Why did you pick me? The Kwame widened her eyes and drifted even closer.
Son, this city has people we can't trust, but you are one of the bravest and most trustworthy of them. I've seen the way you care for people. Not many people in the city can do that. Others might join you soon, but for now, it's you and Eclipse in this together.
Don't worry. Let's see. The picture I'm getting in my head is like Laffy Taffy, like banana Laffy Taffy and I think it's like raspberry mixed together. That's kind of like what the picture I'm getting. I know it's probably not exactly what you're talking about, but just the way the colors were described, that's that's the picture I get. Is banana and raspberry Laffy Taffy kind of like mixed together.
Eclipse.
Sun shut her eyes again. Of course, her strong, capable partner would already be out there, fighting like a true hero. But He can't defeat the monsters on his own. I need to capture the Akama to succeed.
Exactly. You're Sunspot.
Tiki said it with warmth this time.
Eclipse needs you. The world needs you. And I need you.
She flew over the earrings in the sun's lobes.
Want to go save the world?
This is a lot. Are you sure? Sun sniffed.
If a Kwami, an all-powerful being, trusts you, then you should trust yourself.
Okay. She took a deep breath. This was it. This was her putting herself out into the world for good. She was placing herself in a glass case for the world to examine and critique. But one undeniable truth still held. She was the one saving them.
Tiki, Spot's on.
Pandemonium was ensuing outside. Even as Sunspot was walking around, searching for Eclipse, she saw a woman fall to the ground, and an Akama immediately flew to infect her. Sunspot hopped onto a building and examined the city around her. Monsters, no, people, transformed, were smashing buildings, jumping on top of cars, or turning people to stone. Or worse. The world was filled with villains. With her suit on, she felt a resurgence of confidence. Tiki was right. She was Sunspot. It was her job to rid the city of its misunderstandings. But to do that, there was one other person she needed. Sunspot! A familiar voice called. Glad I finally found you. She turned and saw her partner in heroics standing there in his calico suit. Relief washed over her like never before. Eclipse! Didn't we defeat this guy? Why are there like hundreds of him? He gestured with his staff at the chaos beyond. Eclipse, I'm so sorry. I was supposed to catch the Akama, not to let it go. This is all my fault. Hey, Eclipse was next to her suddenly. We're doing this for the first time. Most kids our age don't even know how this works, so why should we? Because it's our job. But she nodded instead. You're right. Let's fix this. Eclipse looked out at the expanse of the city in front of them and exhaled slowly. There's still the issue of how. Another neon blur caught Sunspot's eye at what must have been 50 feet away.
Why don't we start with finding the original? He's important. I can feel it.
And how would we do that? They all look the same, act the same, and have the same powers. Sunspot shook her head. I don't know. That's for my power to figure out. She threw her yo-yo up into the air.
Lucky charm!
A microphone speaker? Eclipse scratched his head. Sunspot, thankfully, had managed to catch both of them as they fell. My head hurts already listening to this racket. This racket. An idea crept up in her mind.
You're right, she cried. That's the answer.
She took the lucky charm and hopped down onto the street and the incoming blasts. Eclipse made a confused noise. My head hurting? But followed her nonetheless. Sunspot glanced around for the first time, listened to the pandemonium. Oh, and for the first time, listened to the pandemonium. There were screams of innocent people, and of course the blasts of music turning them to stone. But there was one key factor she forgot about. Music. Throughout all of their attacks, the orchestrators had been playing music through their ocarinas. The result was as agonizing as nails on a chalkboard when piled on top of each other. But now that Sunspot was paying attention, she realized another thing. Each song was different. Hugo, this stream is actually one for Pans over here. They have redeemed the 10,000 scale reward, and this entire stream is dedicated to reading their story. So the next available one for reading other stories will be like Wednesday. So if you do want to have something read, you can come then, or if you want to, you can redeem a thing, and I will put it in like my library over here, and I will read it on Wednesday. If she tuned out the surrounding noise, she could tell that the orchestrator closest to her was playing a variation of Ballad of the Goddess, and one farther behind was playing Din's song. The melody the original had played had stuck subconsciously in Sunspot's mind, because of its distinction. She had never heard it before then, but was sure if she heard it again, she would know. If I can find the orchestrator with the original chorus, then I can get his Akuma. Then I can really save the world. Eclipse, can we get to the top of the castle? She asked. He raised his eyebrows. We gonna put on a concert for them, Sunshine? He pulled out his staff and spun it around. Get it? 'Cause you're like the sun? You're okay with that, right? She grinned. As long as I can call you Nightshade. Oh. She bundled up the microphone and speaker set. But no concert. We're going to do the opposite. Cover me? In the middle of the city, ruins of the ancient castle from the old times of Termina sat. Termina sat. The last time it had been used as an actual castle was hundreds of years ago, but it had been renovated since and was now a popular tourist attraction. Its walls were run down and gray, but that didn't stop the money coming through. More importantly, it was the tallest point in the city. Sunspot didn't actually think they were allowed to simply swing to the highest balcony and set up a speaker. The very thought of it would normally terrify her, but her supersuit gave her confidence. Honey, where's my supersuit? Sorry, I couldn't help it. She just hoped the whole saving the city excuse would work if the guards ever confronted them. Question. Would it be possible if I redeem the 3500 scales to read the second and third draft of 2 scenes and tell me if my edits are in the right direction on Wednesday, of course? Yeah, I mean, as long as the total is under, let me double check that rewards thing. Yeah, as long as the overall total doesn't exceed 3,000 words, we should be fine. Even so, she had some regrets as she wrapped her yo-yo around the tower's and Eclipse's staff to hit... Let me try that again. Even so, she had some regrets as she wrapped her yo-yo around the towers and Eclipse's staff hit the sides to propel himself up. Finally, they landed on the top balcony. All of Termina spread out before them. On a regular day, she'd say it was beautiful. But today, enemies were wreaking havoc across the horizon. Screams of terror filled the air, and several buildings were turned to stone. Sunspot's stomach felt like mush watching it all. But she would also be the one to put a stop to this. Can you turn the volume up on this? She asked Eclipse. Got you. Got you. He immediately knelt and started fiddling with the buttons on the side. Meanwhile, Sunspot pressed the on switch connected to the microphone. Okay, now. They turned the city up. The area around them was immediately filled with the amplified sounds of songs, screams, and crashes. Eclipse clapped his hands over his ears. The screams! I know. The shrieks of pain were nearly piercing Sunspot's skull, but she had to hold on. Forcing herself up, she walked around the balcony, holding the mic out to the city. When she pointed it to the left, different songs grew in volume more than right. Hopefully, she could use this to pinpoint the right song and find the orchestrator. Are you sure this is going to work? Eclipse asked, as he perched on the speaker, with a hand over one ear. There have to be over 50 orchestrators playing songs right now.
Shush, this is it,
Sunspot said. Still, Eclipse was right. Pacing around the front balcony, she could only work so many times, and her frustration was growing. What if it's not coming from there? Sunspot spun around in irritation.
What are you talking about? It has to come from the city.
It's coming from the city, but maybe not the direction this balcony is facing, he said slowly. He pointed to the highest spire on the castle. We need to turn around. Why don't we try there? Sunspot took a minute to comprehend. We're just in the wrong spot.
Eclipse, you better be right.
He grinned like a Cheshire. Just trying my best. Sunspot swung her yo-yo around the top spire, where it wrapped around and pulled up. Eclipse followed her, and she handed him the speaker, holding onto the spire with one hand and the microphone in the other. She directed it at the blind spot, listening with all her might. Then, after a second, Eclipse made a noise, and she realized a second later, that's it. The song had a fun, cheerful lilt to it, but made Sunspot think of spirits and darkness, the woods she had never been in. Think of the spirits and darkness of the woods she had never been in. Okay. It brought her back to the nights she snuck out of her house when she was younger to get a taste of more. The damp summer nights had welcomed her, and she had hid in the bushes to watch the moon climb, wide-eyed with wonder and wishing she could really become the sun, just to befriend it. Sunspot let out a real smile, one that she knew showed off her dimples.
We found our guy.
Okay, give me a second. They followed the song across the city through the microphone. Choking on spit over here. Sorry about that. They followed the song across the city through the microphone, narrowly avoiding the blasts surrounding them. Eventually, they stumbled between two buildings to see another orchestrator standing on top of a car, performing the same playful tune in front of a group of people. Oh, Sunspot nearly forgot that the song meant he was about to turn more innocent people to stone. As soon as she and Eclipse landed, she shouted, "Orchestrator!" and spun her yo-yo. The musical villain paused and smirked as soon as he saw them, but turned his attention away from the ground. So, the self-proclaimed heroes are back. Woe is me. Eclipse had put his staff away and walked up to him, folded his hands on the car and rested his chin on them, smiling up at the opposition. We beat you once. What's to say we can't do it again? He let out an exaggerated yawn. I said we kill a hero. You were a decent fight for me. Sunspot saw Orchestrator's face sour and take a swing with his ocarina from her view behind another car. But luckily, Eclipse jumped out of the way just in time. Is that all you got? His voice mimicked the same dangerous fun as Orchestrator's song. While Eclipse continued to taunt and tease, Sunspot pulled out her yo-yo again and began spinning it, taking aim. Just as Orchestrator pulled out his ocarina to play for Eclipse, she jumped out and swung. The wire wrapped around him several times, binding his arms, which were still poised with the ocarina. Now! Cataclysm! Eclipse hopped on top of the car and plucked the ocarina out easily, turning it to dust. I won't say I told you so, he said to the criminal. He only grumbled before his costume melted away and fell to the ground. The same purple butterfly flew out of the remnants of the ocarina, but just as she was about to capture it, she looked up and paused. Hundreds of Akamas were swarming up through the air and headed toward the castle. There, They gathered into a gigantic cloud that Sunspot thought was beautiful before she realized it was a face. The face in question was square and scarred, with fiery eyes and pointed teeth that were set in a grin. "People of Termina," he said, "listen carefully. I am Psyche. Sunspot and Eclipse aren't your heroes. They are usurpers of power they aren't supposed to have. The miraculous. Give me their miraculous, and no harm will come to the city." There was a bewildered shift rippling through the crowd that had gathered below, and Sunspot swore she heard someone shout, "Creepy! Creep!" Eclipse glanced at her with nerves in his gaze. Sun closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This man, Psyche, whoever he was, he wanted them gone. He was manipulating the city against them, feeding off their fear. She thought back to the few people she had seen get akumatized, and how it all started from negative emotion. If Psyche wanted her to be afraid, she would be just the opposite. "Listen up, Psyche!" She swooped down so she was in his line of sight. "You aren't allowed to march in and tell people what to do when you've just destroyed half the city. Your Akumas were the ones hurting people, while we're the ones trying to stop you. So I guess it does make us heroes, doesn't it? No matter what, you won't get to keep hurting citizens of Termina." With that, she launched herself forward and swung her yo-yo. "Time to de-evilize!" Her wrists whipped around, collecting the Akumas as fast as she could. Psyche's face rapidly disappeared the more she worked. Finally, she captured the last butterfly and stood atop the castle and opened her yo-yo. Hundreds of crystal-white butterflies erupted from it, spilling into the sky. It looked like a snowfall had come early when they started to fly in all different directions. They contrasted against the blue of the sky, so perfect and small, and most importantly, containing no purple lightning. Sunspot looked across the city with its crushed buildings and nervous people and butterflies scattered throughout, and began to giggle. They were beautiful, after all. She looked down at the city. "Whenever you're in trouble, know that Sunspot and Eclipse will always be there to save you. The city may have a villain, but you also have heroes that will do everything in their power to help. Rest assured, you can sleep soundly at night because of us." The crowd below started to clap and cheer. Whoops filling the air, chanting "Sunspot! Eclipse!" over and over again. Her heart swelled. With the whole city's faith in her, maybe she was starting to gain confidence. She leapt down from the tower to find Eclipse. When she landed, she saw him looking at her with a kind of awe. "What is it?" He shook his head, the pink in his cheeks fading. "Nothing. It was just amazing." "Hey, we were amazing." She grabbed his shoulders, shaking them. "We just saved a city." Another laugh escaped her. "You're right. That was awesome." A grin grew on his face. "Do you think saving Termina will be this fun every time?" "I guess we'll have to find out." She held her fist out. "Pound it?" He obliged. "Pound it." All right, that is chapter 2 down of Miraculous Hylians. So, we do have an ad break coming up. I actually had to mute it for a little bit so that way we could make sure and get through the chapter. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through that little ad break really quick. And then when we come back, we shall get into chapter 3, AIDS Repercussions. So don't go anywhere. We shall be right back after these massages. Alrighty, so with all of that done, let's continue on with Chapter 3 of Miraculous Hylians by Attracted to Pans and Akyu. I think that's what I said. Akyu. So, Chapter 3 AIDS Repercussions. Sky sat on a bus filled with yelling kids and looked out the window with unease. He had been awfully paranoid these last few days. With the speech of Psyche sending the city into grave concern, it was only him and his partner's presence that kept the emotion of hope in the lead. Despite the excitement they felt at the end of their last battle, and the hope impaired into the city by his partner's speech, it weighed on his shoulders once the adrenaline was gone. They had known nothing of their enemy. He could be anyone. It could be a neighbor or a man driving the bus he was on now.
Kid, cheese,
he heard from his jacket pocket. He opened it to see Plag, who looked like a kid making grabby hands at a toy he wanted. Reluctantly, Sky opened up a small pocket of his bag, pulling a stick of cheese and handing it to the gluttonous god.
You look tired, kid.
Well, I just spent the entire night running around the city in a magic cat suit looking for magically brainwashed people. Hard to keep energy for a long time. He could feel the confused, judging looks of kids sitting around him. He pulled his phone up to his ear and pretended it was on a call. Homework and eclipse were weighing down on his sleep, and every time he looked out of the window he saw the castle and the awful reminder of the responsibility caused by the ring on his finger. Time was still reluctant to talk to anyone, even after almost a week had passed since his first alchemization. Sky would sit with him in orchestra, his harp and the ocarina far in the corner. Once Time and the police were calmed, he had brought back the cherished wooden ocarina for Time with the Eclipse prosperity. They had just barely convinced them that Time should be set free. Should be left free. "Do you think he's okay?" Sun asked him at lunch. "He hasn't been alchematized again, but everyone fears he will be. I think Malin is the only one who doesn't fear it." "I feel bad. We have no reason to believe that he willingly did that, or all the others who never picked that second time." Sky paused before chugging down a part of an energy drink. "Anyway, do you have the history notes I can copy? I slipped through the class, and we have that test on the Old Kingdom soon." Sun perked up at the change of subject. Yeah, it was mostly going over the rulers. The main one he talked about was Fierce Deity, that one known for his conquering countries in battle and rumored murder of his wife, the Majora woman we learned last week." She took a pile of papers from her school bag, handing them to Sky. "Just get them back to me before you leave so I can study." Her face held a bright smile. Sky had seen her cheeks grow red as his hand reached out. He gladly took the papers with a sigh of relief. "Thanks." Suddenly, the fire alarm began blaring in their ears. He could hear groans around them as people grabbed possessions and food, walking out simply without care. They started to walk out together, through a side door behind a tall staircase. But before they had stepped outside, the door had burst into flames. When they looked around, everyone finally began to become panicked, and a snake-like being of fire slithered down the stairs. While everyone had rushed back into the building, Sky pushed Sun into the crowd deep into the building. He ran through the empty side, finding a corner he knew to have a blind spot in the cameras. It's where all the kids who vaped go for a reason. And that in the bathrooms. "Plag, wake up!" Plag rose in a panic, letting out a yelp before he flew through Sky's body and around the front.
What's happening? Have they lost the recipe to Camber Cheese?
"No, Plag, they haven't. Now can you please not fly through my body again? Sky felt himself become queasy and his hand reached for his stomach. He reminded himself that his body is solid to all but Plagg. Someone has been akumatized and locked everyone in the school.
Well, good. Kim and Bert is still here. Anyway, about that akumatized person, you've done this twice. The second time was harder. Just do it again.
Plagg paused for a second as if debating to himself.
All you have to do is the same thing, but this time catch the Akuma the first time. So go on and say it. I can't do it on my own, you know,
Plagg said judgmentally. But also as if he was giving advice that he believed. Sky didn't always know what went through Plagg's head, but he didn't think Plagg knew either. Plagg, claws out! The lower half of the monster's body was a snake tail, while her torso was normal. She was covered head to toe
tail
in burning red fire that matched her bright red hair. Eclipse lured her away from the panicking students as he looked for a way to lead her from the building. Every window he passed burst into a bright explosion from the heat, while he blocked her tail slashes with his staff. At the next set of stairs, as more shattered glass flew into Eclipse's blood-covered face, Sunspot flew down from the second floor. Her yo-yo aimed for the monster's head, but had incidentally hit through the inner wall, bursting open the drywall. As the battle continued, they were all on equal footing, with more glass bursting from the windows onto the floor. Shortly they noticed water pouring in from the other halls before a sprinkler above their heads made itself known. All they heard was a screech of pain and the slithering of a tail against the concrete flooring as they watched the monster attempting to outrun the falling water. They both took a moment to watch as she hissed and off at the sound of doors closing from the school's lobby, fire alarms still blaring in their ears. Thanks for the save, Sunshine. That glass sure hurt my ego. Eclipse pulled a piece of glass from his skin.
Hopefully not too much, Nightshade. You all right?
Sunspot pulled him closer as she looked at his bleeding cheeks. Been better. Glad these sprinklers still worked. I was beginning to think they were faulty. It's been over 30 minutes and they only just now turned on. He pulled a piece from his cheek. A drop of blood poured down.
And no fire department is on the way. We can let the school know once this is over. The nurse's office might have something we can use for your face if we can make it over, and I suspect some students are still in the building.
Sunspot held his face to look at the cuts.
The students are priority.
My cuts can be mended once we're done. He pulled away from her hands with red cheeks of blood, holding a cut together. We evacuate the students, then we free her from the Akuma. Sunspot nodded. They snuck around the school with their bright suits. Eventually... They snuck around the school with our bright suits. Eventually, we found students hidden around the locker rooms. That might need a little tweaking there, Pans. Right here. It sounds like it was supposed to be a note, and it didn't quite land right. Anyways. She doesn't like the water, so we just kept the showers on. All good.
She doesn't like the water, so we just kept the showers on. One spat out a while ago,
one of the students said. Sky thought his name was Warriors. He had him in his math class. Why are you here in the girls' locker room instead of the pool? Eclipse asked them. It has far more water.
Not everyone can swim, and we have no guarantee she won't try and drain the pipes. Here. Breaking the pipes would hurt her, we think. So the girls' locker room is cleaner than the boys, and we don't know how long we're going to be here,
one of the kids said. They didn't look the most confident but one of their friends gave them a pat on the back. Another kid also perked up, speaking from the other side of the room.
We also can't figure out why the sprinklers aren't working. They are here. They're in here, but none of them have activated. We think your sprinkler system is outdated. The same issue is happening in the halls, and hiding in the locker room is a smart on your part, But does anyone have any idea who was akumatized? Sunspot asked. What is that? Warriors asked again. Sunspot looked at Sky before she spoke. It is what causes a person to become a monster. When they have intense negative emotions, they can attract an Akuma. This Akuma takes control of their mind and turns them into monsters.
For a moment, all the students looked guilty.
Why do you all look so down? If you can help us find out who they were, then we can free them. And you can get out of the school, Sky asked.
Everyone looked around, expecting someone else to say it.
People have been talking about how, because Time was the first one to become a monster, that he wanted to secretly kill everyone.
Warriors held a small, guilty look in his eyes.
I wondered the same thing, but I didn't jump to conclusions. I wanted to wait for you to make some public announcement or something about what was happening.
Both Eclipse and Sunspot looked at them, all with confusion, partly disgust and hints of betrayal.
We thank you for your truth, warriors. For now, prepare yourselves to be here for a while. We don't know how soon we'll be able to defeat her.
Sunspot took over the conversation with strength that Eclipse could not create himself.
Oh, dang it, I had the wrong person.
He whispered to Sunspot. I think I got a solution to get them out. This locker room has an exit to the outside, which she might have blocked. If that wall is connected to the outside, then we can cataclysm them out. We only have 5 minutes to free her. Then we free her first and protect them at the same time. Her hand grew white as she clutched her yo-yo in anger. How dare they do that? How would they do that to anyone? If that is the girl I think it is, we need that boy on our side. How would he ever trust us after everything they placed in his head?
We have to find him first, Sunshine. Don't overthink before we have to. Eclipse tried to comfort her, keeping his voice down not just for her, but as he tries to hide their plans from the students. With time, they prepared the students with food and drinks from the cafeteria next door. With the water flying through the showers and sinks, they left to find the boy akumatized only a week ago.
I'd eat some water.
All right. They'd found Time in the main lobby. Somehow he got a hold of a small hand-sized water gun, but it didn't look like he needed it. She was no longer covered in fire except for her hair. Her tail was a striking shade of red. He calmly sat with her on the stairs of the main lobby. Her tail was curled around him and draping over the staircase.
Malin, please, you don't have to harm them.
He lay in her tail awkwardly. His hands were held away from her hair as he slowly attempted to inch out of her tail.
Not Malin anymore. It's Chimera. You know this.
She laughed, clearly trying to hug him. Still, she saw the water gun vaguely facing her.
Why are you trying to do this? Holding me here like a prisoner. It does nothing for you to hunt down our classmates over things not true.
Eclipse and Sunspot didn't even try to hear him. He was so loud they wondered why they didn't hear sooner.
But it is true. They hate you. You should join me so we can show them what they fear.
Her hair appeared to almost float as she rose and began to catch fire in anger. What about me makes you think that I would want that? He now faced the water gun directly at her while continuing to try and slide away from her tail, which only draped around him tighter. Eclipse had to hold Sunspot back.
Why are you stopping me? He's clearly 2 minutes away from being suffocated or burned.
He's not. They're dating, remember? She just happens to be akumatized right now. If you just run in and try to fight her, we might not be able to get him out. He's the only person she isn't going to hurt, so we need him to get the Akuma. He let go of her arm and held his staff out, beginning to aim.
What do you suggest, then?
Sunspot pointed at his staff.
Well, right now I'm looking for the Akama. I recently found out my...
Right now I'm looking for the Akama. I recently found out my staff can work like a spyglass when I look through it. I'm trying to find anything that might hold the Akama. He noticed the necklace dangling from around her neck. Hidden by Chimera's hair was a bronze brooch around her scarf, which looked like an old video game character.
Fine. I jump in and pull him out with my yo-yo. You distract her and then hide around the swimming pool. I got a plan.
She looked at him for approval as he fastened his staff back to his belt. Good by me, sunshine. I think I spotted the akamatized object, a brooch on her scarf. They could see Time and Chimera as they continued to argue and talk. Time still pointed the water gun in her direction. Sunspot looked puzzled for a moment as she looked closely at Chimera, trying to spot the brooch from afar.
She has a scarf?
Yeah, one of those small ones you wrap around and tie in the front. That's where she has the brooch. Eclipse tried to point out the scarf and brooch, but they were too far to spot it. You will notice once you get close to her. We meet back on the rooftop to regroup. Hopefully I lose her by then. If I don't, then make your own plan with him first. Sunspot leaped into the air just after Eclipse finished talking. She flipped her yo-yo to grab onto Time's torso and pull him from the top floor. Chimera tried to jump up at Sunspot as her body relit with fire.
No! You bug!
Her yell was cut off by the end of Eclipse's staff hitting her face before it retracted back. Eclipse made a break for it through the hallways, pulling her attention away from Sunspot and Time racing to the roof. Eclipse and Chimera chased each other around the school, jumping over glass from the previous chase. Eclipse's eyes widened at broken sprinklers across the ceiling and dodged more exploding windows as he reached a corner. Just as he began to turn, Chimera's tail crashed into the wall ahead, her tail in the rubble blocking the exit. He tried to dodge by swerving around her torso, but was caught in Chimera's tail, which squeezed him like a python. Katak! He was silenced by her tail over his mouth. Chimera's tail tightened around him.
Oh, cat, your miraculous will belong to Psyche, and I will...
He felt himself gasp for air under the heated scales of her tail. Just as she laughed in his ear, water blasted the side of his face. He fell to the floor and breathed as his breath returned, only to see her slithering away. When he looked up, he was lifted by an arm he found to be Warrior's. He was wielding a baseball bat. Get going. I burst one of the pipes so she won't be back, but she's hunting for Sunspot. Behind him was an open wall, broken metal underneath, spitting water into the corridor. He led Eclipse through the glass-covered floor. Thanks. Get back inside. I'll find them. Eclipse took a moment to regain stability and rubbed water out of his hair before whispering to Warriors. Don't go near the pool. He suddenly found the liquid extremely uncomfortable. In his moment of thought, Plag jumped back into his head, whispering in a small voice as if behind him again.
Of course you don't like it. You're a cat now, remember?
I won't. I'll keep the rest of us inside, but I heard you running and couldn't resist, Warriors admitted sheepishly. He began to walk back towards the locker rooms. Good luck. As Warriors ran off, Eclipse looked through the wall of water rushing from the burst pipe. The pipe that was broken opened by an unpowered boy, wielding a baseball bat from the school's gym closet. Just as he turned back to the dry hallway, Warriors vanished down a stairwell. Eclipse arced his legs and sent out in a sprint. Instead of running upright like usual, he dashed on his hands and legs, like a cat. It felt more natural than his brain made him think. All he knew was that he felt faster, and he had to get to the pool. At the pool room, he jumped to the ceiling to hide, noticing a ridiculous amount of old volleyballs caught with him. It was quite tempting to toss all of them back to the ground. While he hid, he spotted Time run out of a storage closet and Sunspot behind him, climbing up the wall. In Time's arms was a yellow and pink polka dot pool floaty, the same colors of Sunspot's suit. He placed it in the pool and sat inside carefully, floating toward the center of the pool. He still held the flimsy water gun, refilling it with the water while looking up at the ceiling where Eclipse sat. Sunspot climbed over Eclipse, sending Time a thumbs up. He's going to help us lure her in here. If she is weak to water, then we can drop down and kick her into the pool. It should give an opening for you to destroy the brooch. She wrapped her yo-yo around a steady concrete bar between them.
Oof, I need some more water.
Down below them, Time suddenly yelled as if he was in pain and splashed himself with the water around him. Only a few minutes passed while he hollered and yelled before Chimera arrived. She thrashed around, talking less and acting more like a wild animal, her tail dragging on the ground behind her. "Malin, help me! They trapped me in the middle of the pool!" Time held the water gun behind him and threw his arm out to her dramatically. Her body stayed on fire, burning higher and turning a slight blue at its base. She almost floated over the water, her tail strong at the base of the pool as she hovered over him. Her arms were no longer on fire, taking him into the water. As he was lifted into the air, she took his arm from behind his back, and water flew into her face. She screeched with pain and sprang up, dropping him into the pool. Eclipse could see him swimming under the water as his water gun floated to the water's surface. Sunspot took the opportunity to tap Eclipse's shoulder and drop down below. Her feet landed on Chimera's back, plunging them both under the water. Her yo-yo strained onto the metallic bar. Eclipse plunged down with his staff at his side, and he landed around the edge of the pool to pull Time out of the water. "Get to the girls' locker room. Some students are there." Time nodded and sprinted out to the hall. He looked back at them on his way out, but didn't stop. Eclipse turned to see Sunspot holding Chimera under the water, the yo-yo wrapped around her crashing tail. Cataclysm! The water crawled up Eclipse's skin, but he dove downward, slipping around to find the brooch. His vision blurred as he swam under the wrestling Sunspot and Chimera. He reached his hand out and seized the bright bronze brooch in his clawed hands, disintegrating it. The yo-yo released Chimera as a purple sheen appeared around her, evaporating the tail. When the purple glow faded, Malin returned, confused. She tried to swim up for air in a panic.
What happened?
She coughed out water. "Where's my brooch?" She searched her scarf before peering rashly inside the pool. "Your brooch is here." Eclipse held his hand. "Eclipse prosperity." From the pool, hundreds of small ashes flew into the air. The pieces returned to his hand and slowly reformed the bronze brooch. "Malin, you were just akumatized. It's the same thing that happened last week to your boyfriend. Time. It transforms a person into a monster and takes control of their minds. We're sorry for not making any public announcements on the situation sooner, but we will once everyone is out of the school and the police arrive. Please forgive us for what our mistake caused you in time." Sunspot looked almost depressed while she spoke. She stood just lower than Malin in height, but could not bring herself to look up at her. Outside they stood, with Malin and Time beside them. The police yelled at the other students leaving the door. "Look, kids, you might have some magic powers or something, but I don't care who you are. They caused damage and almost killed people. They are being arrested and—" The officer tried to hit them out of the way with his baton, but Eclipse caught it in his hand and disintegrated. "Exactly,"
Superpowers, Sunspot snapped. We were entrusted to a power you weren't, and this is our department. If you want access to the department, then gain the superpowers. But since you clearly can't, you don't tell us how to do our jobs. She took Eclipse's arm and walked away with Malin and Time between them. That is an attack on an officer. You are under arrest for vigilantism. Attack of an officer, aiding and abetting, damage to public property. The officer was cut off by a large, gruff woman, also in police uniform. Johnson, shut up! Do you want to arrest the superheroes who are publicly liked and have the power to kill us in a second if they so choose, as they showed with your baton when you tried to get them? Get back to the car if you aren't going to help us give the kids medical attention. Eclipse felt quite proud of his mom as he watched the scene from afar. He could recognize her scolding from miles away. Eclipse thought how he should have known she would be here. She was a police officer, after all, and a good one at that. Within a few moments, the news stations finally arrived. Eclipse grabbed Time while Sunspot took Malin as they jumped onto the school's roof. Did you really de-transform, feed your Kwami, and gear up again just for that conversation? Sunspot teased in a whisper. Hey, they weren't the nicest, so we can use the extra charisma, all the extra charisma we have. Though I didn't expect that specific chat. Besides, don't act like you didn't de-transform too. I haven't heard your earrings beep once since the pool. He shot her a sly smile. She put her hands on her hips and stepped to the edge of the building. I figured they wouldn't arrive before the timer ended. We had the same thought, Sunshine. Sky sat on his couch, his mother in the kitchen, and his mom walking in from a day at work. She took off her jacket and placed a belt onto the small table next to the door with her keys. Hey, Mom. How was work? He looked over from a small old TV before him. Quiet. Interesting, actually. Johnson tried to arrest those new superhero kids. She kissed him on the forehead and walked to the kitchen, where her wife stood surrounded by pans filled with meat and spices. As his parents talked, Sky turned the TV away from his older cartoon and onto the news. This is Termina's top news station outside the local high school, Knight Academy, just moments after the police discovered numerous students were trapped inside running from a rampaging monster since lunch hour. We are about to talk to the students now. The reporter was cut off and everyone else stopped talking. Heads turned to look at Sunspot and Eclipse standing on the roof, with Malin and Time huddled into large white towels behind them. The camera zoomed into their faces. Sky noticed that they looked more angry than he remembered, being even after the moments before, despite the small moment of banter they had before. Perhaps it was caused by the sight of the news crew whose station he was now watching. People of Termina. Hold on, give me just a second here. Okay. People of Termina. I am aware this news will be quite sudden, but during my last speech, your introduction to me and my partner, Eclipse, you watched as we captured purple butterflies believed to be the reason for so many people being turned into monsters without control of themselves. Those butterflies are called Akumas, created by a power similar to our own, by that man, Psyche. They take control of someone's mind when they have extreme negative emotions by entering an object they are touching. They rest within this object, taking control of their now changed body and mind. They have two goals: to destroy the cause of their negative emotion and kill me and my partner to gain the source of our power. Sunspot paused, taking a long breath. Sky watched the screen as his past self took over the speech. We are coming forward with this information because these two innocent teenagers behind us, Malin and Time, were excluded and almost abused by those at this school for being the first two to become akumatized with their own unique forms. We are here to announce that we will continue to protect you all as we promised. But if we are going to continue our promise, the people
akumatized shall face no consequence and be accepted back into society as victims of psyche they are. Once the speech ended, the air was quiet and thick. Malin and Time were lowered down, and the camera zoomed back out to face the reporter, her face shocked and disturbed, being one of those taken over in the mass akumization. As a beeping sound appeared from the screen, Sunspot and him looked at each other for a single fist bump before running from the scene.
Well, that's quite a shocking revelation. That was not seen coming. The reporter paused, clearly uncomfortable. Well, we should begin talking to the students for statements, if you would just follow me.
He switched the TV off, stepping up to sit at the table with his parents. Under the table was Plag, who floated in the air while Sky snuck him a small piece of cheese. They would probably be scolded for its size once they were alone. That wouldn't be for another hour as Sky and his parents talked into the night. Okay. That was the end of chapter 3. So, two things. First and foremost, we're kind of coming to the end of the stream over here. And second, I believe my voice is actually starting to give up. So that is where we are going to call it for the evening. Attracted to Pans, thank you for your story. I hope I did it justice in the reading, and I hope you hype. And I hope you enjoyed hearing your story live on stream. For those of you who are in the Twitch chat, here is the link to this story if you want to go check it out again. It is in the chat there. You can use that link to go check it out and save it. This was a story by Attracted to Pans and Akyu. I think that's how you say it. And yeah, so that was the first 3 chapters of that story. Like I said, if you want to check out the rest of it, use that link in the description. For those of you on YouTube, the VOD of this stream will have the link in the description below if you want to go check that out. I don't have it there immediately just because, there's some slight editing I have to do in order to make it work. So, link is coming, so don't worry. But with all of that out of the way, thank you for coming. Thank you for this submission. And for those of you who also had wanted to have submissions, both Hugo Moreno and, let's see, let me go back up over here, Author Relic. If you guys want to come back on Wednesday, if you guys want to come back on Wednesday, starting at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will have your stories read. So don't worry, it is saved, or at least your in mind is saved. And if you want to have it read, come on Wednesday for that. And then, so on that note, on Sunday, we are going to be going back into MapleStory for the main line storyline. We are currently working our way through the Edelstein storyline, if I remember correctly, which is part of the main backbone of the storyline of MapleStory. And that will be starting at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we're going to see if we can do more of that and see what else is on the horizon for us as part of the main storyline. And then, like I said, on Wednesday, starting at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I am going to be doing some editing on Legends of Osiria. I have to double check on what chapter I'm working on there. I will be working on that and doing some reading at the same time. If you guys want to come and check that out, that is what shall be happening. And then back on next week, Friday, assuming we don't have any more people that have redeemed their rewards for another reading stream, we shall be working on the story prompt here. We'll save these for next week, Friday, and I will be playing Satisfactory while waiting for submissions for this. The prompt this time around is, you are the villain, and in your quest to beat the hero and conquer the world, you realize that you may have pushed too hard because now you have to stop the hero who is slowly becoming a greater villain than you ever were. All right. So next Friday, I look forward to those those short story writing prompts. And yeah, I hope to see you all on the next one. Oh, and before we go, big welcome to Author Relic X. You are the new shiny coin of the vault, and I hope you are at least mildly entertained by what you see from here on out. And like I said before, I hope to see you all again next time.
There's a feeling deep inside. Let it be your prayer. Show me the power you can hide.
Thanks everyone for coming to the stream, and I hope to see you again next time. If you want to catch whenever I go live, subscribe or follow to become a coin of the vault so you never miss a thing. Wherever you're viewing from, have a look around my YouTube channel for more stuff, including the audiobooks of MapleStory the novel Sacred Tears, Sly Cooper Rise of Vexen, and Arcane. Each story is fully voice acted with sound effects and background music so that you can sit down and watch or listen to while you go about your day. You can also find all kinds of previous storylines from MapleStory that I've already done. So, until next time, my friends.
Never be afraid to fall. Throw yourself into it. Victory's waiting for you. Go fight, show your energy. Don't slow down, no time to wait. Nothing's stopping you now. It's gonna be your day. Hopes and wishes never fade. Fight to make them stronger. Nothing will take them from you. Go fight.